Billy the Liquor Guy here. The story you're about to hear, under too long, is the story of bombs, drugs, untaxed alcohol, terrorism, and the undercover agents who brought it all down. Thanks for being here. Episode 7. In this episode, the stakes explode, literally. From dangerous deals and secret operations to the discovery of a bomb, every move was a race against time. With enemies getting bolder and the risks deadlier, there was no room for mistakes. One wrong step could mean the end. Let's jump back into the story.
Chapter 22, Operation Keystone. Operation Keystone's new key players included El Babo, a large ethnic-looking undercover who was fluent in Russian, Polish, and Bosnian, and was highly skilled in computers, and Nick at Night, a smaller undercover compared to Babo, who was a little under 6 feet, weighed around 190 pounds, and had a thick mustache that made him look like Dirk Diggler from the 70s. Though his appearance threw me off, Nick spoke Arabic, feared nothing, and was noted for the surveillance work he'd completed on a few high-profile cases. McNally oversaw our operation, while Rubino remained in charge of our tactical team and movements. Brahim was back on the scene with surveillance, while Big Chaz, Russell the Muscle, Deerslayer, and Jeff ran the warehouse's security. We also had a confidential informant named Saeed, who Brahim would become responsible for. As a transplant from Tunisia, Saeed had begun working with Stanton after he was apprehended for smuggling items onto the black market 2 years before. He was to be our golden ticket in the operation, as Arabs only did business with fellow Arabs. I was happy he had that going for him because he didn't fare well in the looks department. His nose was too large for his face, his eyebrows were too hairy, and he had excessive saliva that seemed to rest in the corner of his mouth as he spoke. Operation Keystone was set in an empty warehouse enclosed with a barbed wire fence and electronic gate. The scope of the warehouse and surrounding area was so congested that it took Stanton's team 2 weeks to complete the audio and video surveillance. The only bad thing about the warehouse was the missing electronic gate opener, which Stanton was working to locate. As you know, we're fighting hard to get these fucking terrorists out of our country, and that means cracking down on their cigarette sales. It's time to cut off their funds for good and lock these assholes up, Stanton said as he prepared us for a new operation. Stanton's plan was simple. He placed an ad in the local Arabic newspaper advertising cheap cigarettes, and we waited for their call. Saeed oversaw the phone calls and scheduled times for the buyers. So compared to everything else we just done, this sounded offbeat, but who was I to judge? In order to keep our operations safe and our buyers separate, Nick suggested we keep an hour between each sale. Are we going to get recliners for this job or what? I asked him. Seems like a lot of downtime. Trust me, you're going to be busier than you think. Our first ad launched on a Wednesday, and by Thursday, Saeed had secured 3 appointments. If you show up 1 minute early, we'll not sell to you, Saeed informed each caller. The first day went smoothly. The 3 drivers arrived, purchased a few cases of cigarettes, and left with a promise to return the following week. Tomorrow, I'm definitely bringing a chair, Jeff said as we sat around board. Just like with the bar owners, word began to catch on about our operation. By the end of the month, we had 25 customers locked in place, as well as lounge chairs, which we had shipped to the warehouse. By the second month, some of our bad guys began creeping up on their schedules, so Saeed had to remind them about our time policy. They played along for a few weeks until they showed up early again, paranoid that someone was going to purchase all the cigarettes and leave them empty-handed. Jeff or I would come out reaching for the gun in our holster, and the group would tear out of there faster than their tires could roll. Word got out that we were a crazy bunch of assholes, yet as much as I yelled and threatened to shoot people, they always returned because they were greedy. While our surplus of clientele continued to grow, our supplies quickly depleted. Tired of going to the state and filing paperwork for additional funds and then waiting for approval, Stanton came up with a new approach. RIPT, as Stanton called it, was formulated to repurpose our cigarettes. Basically, Stanton made a deal with the Yonkers Police Department. After a big deal, we notify a specific unit of the vehicle make and model. In turn, the YPD would flip the switch, locate the bad guys, arrest them, and confiscate the cigarettes, which they returned to us. It may not sound like much, but reselling the cigarettes we already sold put us in another bracket and eliminated Stanton's fight for additional funds. The extra money became so heavy that Stanton hired a state accountant just to track those transactions. It was a win-win for everyone. The Yonkers Police Department was bringing in numbers, names, and fingerprints, which they fed to the FBI, while we showed the need for a continued number of undercover stings within our unit. The guys and I were suddenly swimming in an operation that didn't require a lot of back and forth. Life seemed to be a bed of roses, even with our fair share of headaches. One afternoon, Jeff had dismissed a buyer when he noticed the black smoke and tall flames shooting from the roof of the vacant building beside us. By the time we ran out to survey the scene, the building was fully engulfed. The four of us tore into our warehouse like madmen, loading ourselves with as much product as we could. We were certain the building was about to go down, possibly taking our warehouse with it, and we sure as shit didn't want to risk losing thousands of dollars worth of product if we could help it. As we finished our last load, Jeff noticed an elderly gentleman approach the scene. Carl, as we learned, owned an upholstery shop 2 warehouses down from us. I knew that empty building was going to go, he said to us. Been telling the landlord for years, it's a place for squatters and rats. Someone probably torched it. The fire caused us to put the operation on hold for 6 days. But once we reopened, it seemed like all hell broke loose. For the next 3 months, we were busier than ever. New customers called every day, and our loyal buyers began showing up in rented U-Hauls and trucks, anxiously hoping to fill them with product. We closed our operation just shy of $50,000 a day, add 2 to 3 sales a week, and we're talking a monthly cash in hand of about $400,000 that the state was seeing. But Raheem was in charge of transporting the money from our warehouse to Albany, an honest guy who I often refer to as Dudley Do-Right. But Raheem was one of the most trusted guys on our unit, which might explain my solo transport with him. During that drive, I made it to New Jersey Turnpike before I turned and gave Raheem a quick smile and nod to the sack of cash in the back seat. You got 2 options here, I said, pointing to the road. We could head north or south through the cash. Which one will it be? Don't start with me, Billy, today, Raheem said. I'm not in the mood for your philosophy bullshit. What philosophy? All I'm saying is I could easily make a call. I'll have a buddy show up. I'll take a gunshot to the shoulder. You take a hit on the head, and he runs away with the money. We meet up later and give him 20%. No one would be the wiser. What do you think? I think we have tons of audio devices in this vehicle, and you're trying to get us in trouble. I watched Raheem tug at the collar of his shirt, which only urged me to go on. Okay, so then we head down to Atlantic City and take a chance. Brilliant plan. Raheem was growing red. And when you lose all the money, then what? Then we go back to plan A. It's perfect. I'd frustrated Raheem so much that he never allowed me to transport anything with him again. As far as he was concerned, working one-on-one with me was too much of a liability. As for the rest of the unit, any questions about allotted funds were history. The only issue going forward became the number of bad guys that continued to turn up. Chapter 23, Sunshine. The warehouse fire had given our buyers a few days to think about their purchases as well as ways to analyze our operation. And when it came to bad guys and financial analysis, greed always overruled logic. One of the miscalculations we didn't factor in was the empty lot that now sat beside us, which the Arabs began utilizing to spy on us from. They'd park their U-Hauls, pull out their binoculars, and write down who we were doing business with, what car they drove, how much they purchased, and if they seemed friendly with us. Obviously, this was very concerning to us when we covered the facts. But for weeks, we were like sitting ducks, clueless as to what was happening until we discovered Sunshine. Sunshine pulled onto the lot in a slick black Mustang. The windows were as dark as the car, and the silver shiny rims seemed to sparkle as it inched forward. The guys and I stopped what we were doing, all straining our necks to see who was going to emerge from the ride. So when a black female stepped out, we almost lost our shit. Here was this nicely dressed woman with a fluffy afro, tight body, and red heels that matched her fingernails, walking into a dusty warehouse, typically filled with sweaty Arabian men and old beat-up trucks. A large black gentleman opened the passenger door and strode up beside her, breaking our gaze. This guy had muscles on top of muscles, which made me concerned for the veins that seemed to push through his skin. Sunshine was professional. She offered her hand to Saeed and a smile and a friendly wave to the rest of us, gawking at her. What do you boys have? She asked as Saeed escorted her over. A rowdy crowd stood speechless as Jeff showed her our inventory. She placed an order for 4 cases, to which Muscle Man fronted the money and then stuffed in the back of the Mustang. What are you going to do with those? I inquired, managed to find my voice. The same things everyone else does. I'm going to sell them. She winked. Sunshine exited the warehouse with an appointment scheduled for the following week. There was something about the way she carried herself, the way she did business, that made my radar go up. Listen to your gut, Stan said at our weekly meeting. If you think there's more there, then by all means dig deeper. Sunshine became one of our Tuesday regulars. I made small talk with her and tried to hit a few jokes, but sanguinity was limited due to our time. Upon our third arrival, Sunshine brought the boys and me coffee. How'd you know what we needed? I joked, happily taking the tray. Well, I'd say you're in a giveaway, Sunshine said, gesturing to all the empty Dunkin' Donut cups around the warehouse. So you not only drive a great car, you're observant too, I teased. Well, I am a woman, so we've noticed, I laughed. Guys, and I don't get to see too many of you here. How unfortunate for other women, Sunshine smiled. It's a shame when men are collecting all the business prospects. You don't find this a little rough, I asked? What? Older men in dirty t-shirts and a set of used recliners? Ouch. I can't believe you say that about our t-shirts. I thought we were looking pretty sharp. Sunshine laughed, which I took as my key. Hey, next time, why don't you let me take you for coffee while these guys load your supplies? There's a diner right up the road. Let me pay you back. Is that what you want to call it, a payback? She smirked. Would you rather I call it something more official? Payback is good, she said, turning towards her loaded car. I'll see you next week. The following week, I escorted Sunshine to the diner, 1 block away. The diner, famously known for their thick milkshakes, was busy. I grabbed a booth by the window, ordered us some coffee and a slice of apple pie to share. You're not sick, are you? I winked from across the table. Not any sicker than you are, I'm guessing, she replied, picking up a fork. Sunshine was surprisingly open for our first meeting. After a few minutes of small talk, she told me that she ran a successful brothel 3 miles from our location. The cigarettes were an incentive to clients who were frequenting her establishment. Back up, I said, almost spitting out my coffee. You're a madam? Are you surprised? She laughed. Yes, I am surprised. I figured you were going to tell me you were the head of some crime family or worked for a big drug lord. But a madam? That I did not expect. I didn't even know that was still around. Well, if that's the truth, that's very sad for you and your gentleman crew, especially if they look as good as you. Sunshine cheeks flushed, and she tucked part of her afro behind her ear. You know, if you got all those ladies around, I know a vendor was trying to get rid of a bunch of counterfeit purses and shit. I can see if he can strike a deal with you. Are you all business all the time? Sunshine questioned. Only 90% of the time. The other 10% I'm sleeping. Sunshine smiled and agreed to look at what my friend had to offer. But if I'm going to continue doing business with you, then you have to do something for me, Sunshine stated. What's that, continual coffee dates? Not quite, she smiled. You need to handle the men who are watching you. It's disturbing to be eyed when I pull up. Could be dangerous for you guys as well. I immediately questioned what Sunshine knew and how long she'd known about them. Just this week, she shrugged. When I pulled up, they were there. I'd normally let my security handle it, but that looked a little too involved for me. When we walked back to the lot, Sunshine discreetly pointed out the rundown truck, which appeared to be empty. Sunshine assured me it was not. Surveillance was on the truck the moment the conversation came across the wire. El Babo had the Yonkers police waiting in the wings, ready to apprehend whoever was behind the wheel. The plan, he informed me, was for us to leave the area as if we were going to lunch so the police could swarm in. I had to say it was a beautiful plan because it went spectacularly. The Yonkers Police Department arrested the 2 men, stripped them of the information they gathered, and handed them over to the proper authorities. The idiots were none the wiser because within 3 weeks they were back on the scene. You idiots almost drew attention to us, Saeed yelled as they pulled up. My guys in there knew you were watching them. They were very upset. They say you're going to get everyone arrested for your behavior. They don't want to do business with you anymore. The 2 men began to speak in rapid Arabic, which Saeed quickly translated to us. They were sorry. They didn't mean any harm. They just wanted to see who their competition was. Were we giving other people better deals and more cigarettes? Is this a joke, Saeed said. Better deals? We give how many cigarettes you order. This isn't an auction house. What do you mean? The men wanted twice the number of cigarettes they previously obtained. Not today, Saeed said, knowing we couldn't afford to hand out that much. You've made my men very angry. They want you to leave. The men were shocked. They cried to Saeed about money and how badly they needed this sale. Come back next week, he said, directing them to head out. Don't spy on them again. It's bad for customers. You're going to make a riot here. They don't want to draw any attention. As the men carried on, I stepped out of the warehouse, my chest puffed, shoulders back, and hand on the gun that was strapped to my waist. Saeed, I yelled in my best angry voice, we got a problem? Before Saeed could answer, the two men put the truck in reverse and sped out of there, leaving us in peace for another week. You're in the clear, I told Sunshine, as I handed her a box of counterfeit scarves, purses, and Jimmy Choos I'd pick up from an undercover in Chinatown. We got rid of those guys thanks to you. We're indebted to you, so these are on the house. Sunshine stood on her tiptoes and gave me a hug, thanking me for the loot. You're one silvery fox, you know that, she said, messing up my hair. You're taking a dig at my age again, I joked. A man's ego could really get hurt that way. Yeah, but you're not that type of man, Sunshine said, hitting me with her hip. You're not sensitive and shit. You're strong and all business. Sunshine walked away with her box of apparel, giddy as a teenage girl. Chapter 24. Neighbor Carl. As the operation continued to build momentum, Jeff grew irritated. We still hadn't acquired the automatic gate opener, so Jeff had to stand outside, pulling it open and closed as customers arrived. It's like trying to manage a bunch of teenagers, Jeff shouted, referring to the customers who arrived early or without any appointment. Dragging the gate open and closed between each client weighed on him. He complained about his abandoned recliner, nagged Stanton to harass the landlord, and whine about all the manual labor he had to do. One day, two Middle Eastern men began fighting over who arrived at the lot first. Jeff and Saeed were behind the closed gate, instructing the two idiots to back up. Paranoid they'd lose their spot, both men continued to inch their U-Hauls forward, attempting to block the other. Back inside the warehouse, we heard Jeff yelling, "Back up! Back up!" Jeff hardly ever raised his voice, so his bark drove us out of our recliners and onto our feet within seconds. El Babo and I exited the warehouse to find two men yipping, I'm next. Back up, Jeff shouted. You're going to break the fence. Back up. Before we could get down to the gate, one of the men stepped on the gas, jolting his U-Haul straight into the fence. Jeff and Saeed dove out of the way, just missing the gate as it went flying off its hinges. You stupid bastards, I screamed, running towards them. Look what you did. Are you crazy? The man whose truck broke the fence stepped out to survey the damage. Get the fuck out of here, I screamed. You're done. You hear me? You will never buy a fucking thing from this warehouse again. You understand, asshole? Please, my family, the man carried on. You should have thought about your family before you broke the fucking gate, I hollered. Get back in your truck and the hell out of here. I turned to the other U-Haul driver who was sitting behind the wheel, smiling at this show. You too, I yelled. Turn on your engine and get the fuck out of here. I'm not selling your ass any cigarettes either. You assholes are done here. No, please, the man begged. Please, my family. Fuck your family, I hollered, looking at the fence. Look what you did to our property. You want to pay for this too? The driver put his hands in the air. I did not do that. You cannot blame me. You're as much to blame as this idiot, I said, pointing to the short, hairy man who was looking at the ground. Both of you were too selfish to figure it out. Because of that, you're both done. Now get the fuck out of here. I placed my hand on my holster, acting as if I was going to pull the gun out. El Babo did the same. The man who did not hit the gate took one look at us and put his U-Haul in reverse. Please, I am so very sorry, the fence hitter exclaimed, still standing outside his U-Haul. Please help me and my family. I cannot lose this sale. My family needs it for our business. Our family needs a secure gate, El Babo interjected, holding his pistol towards the ground. You going to take care of that? I don't know how to fix the fence, but I have a friend. Get the fuck out of here, I jumped in. A friend? You think we're going to let you bring a friend down here? You trying to get us busted now too? Get in your truck and get the fuck out of here. Fence hitter walked back to the U-Haul, his head hung low, and slowly pulled away. Can I come back next week? He asked Saeed as he drove past him. Get the fuck out of here, I screamed, running up and kicking the back of the U-Haul. Go. The driver sped off, leaving us to assess the damage he'd caused. You guys have a lot of stuff going on here, a voice said. El Babo and I jumped a mile. We whipped around, guns in hand, to see Carl standing there, arms raised in defense. Jesus, I exclaimed. We almost shot you. Don't you know better than to sneak up on people? I wasn't sneaking. I've been behind you the whole time. I ran up as soon as I heard the commotion. I eyed El Babo. So far, we were 0-2 when it came to knowing what the fuck was going on around us. Looks like a big repair job. Let me know if they need a duplicate gate key, Carl said, stepping forward to get a better look at the fence. Jeff spun around. You have a gate key? Yeah. I found it inside the warehouse months before you guys moved in, he shrugged. Some idiot must have left it behind. I didn't want anybody to get it. I've got some important stuff in my area too, so I took it. Jeff told Carl that we'd been missing the opener this whole time and went on to explain how he spent hours opening and closing the gate by hand every day. Well, shit, partner. This is all yours then, he said, tossing the opener over. Jeff had a shit grin on his face for the rest of the day. I believe the first thing he said to the fence repairman was, please don't disable the remote. It took 2 days for the repairman to fix the fence. Jeff was happier than shit to resume our operation now that he had his little button presser. He also became best buds with Carl, making his daily pop-ins a regular with the team. Carl, the upholstery man, was a likable guy. He seemed harmless enough with his little furniture business and a skinny son who sometimes came to help him out. He was also fascinated with what we were doing. He thought we were involved in the mob and running some secret operation for one of the head bosses in Long Island. We told him he'd watched too many Godfather movies, but we didn't deny his idea altogether. As weeks grew into summer, the warehouse became stifling. We'd often leave the garage door halfway open to let a little ventilation in between customers. One afternoon, Carl happened to walk by. Catching sight of the opening, he decided to peek in. Our cameras caught him getting down on his hands and knees, attempting to look inside our permanently closed walls. However, our surveillance crew did not. Here were investigators with over 20 years of experience and a handful of security and a surveillance crew all sitting around bitching about the heat, oblivious to the skinny white man who was crawling underneath our garage door. I wish I had a Polaroid to capture the look on Carl's face when he stood up and saw us lounging in chairs, automatic rifles draped across our laps. Before Carl even caught the surprised look on our faces, he began talking. I knew you guys were mobbed up. This is amazing, he exclaimed. You think we'd have let you get in this far if we weren't? Jeff said. We've had men on you since you started walking over here. Jeff's beautiful response was automatic. That was the real shit of undercover that people didn't realize. It wasn't about just faking who you were. It was about being able to think of shit off the top of your head. Wow, this is great, Carl squeezed out, looking around the warehouse. I was on my way to pick up a pizza and came to see if you guys wanted some. But wow! Carl's eyes bounced around the warehouse, fascinated with what was in front of him. You guys sell all these cigarettes, he inquired. Jeff explained our untaxed cigarette operation. I won't breathe a word of this to anyone, Carl said, raising his 2 fingers in what I gathered meant Boy Scout honor. Maybe I can help you. I can be a selling agent on the side, help you move some of this product. We enjoyed that little amusement Carl was bringing us, so we went along and offered him a few cases as a standard beginner's test. This was prime real estate for Carl's ears. He sped off to pick up pizza, which he had happily added our order to with 5 cases in hand. How much do I make off each case I sell? He asked before he left. For you? I said, still sitting in my lounge chair. We'll give you 10%. Carl hardly seemed like the criminal type, so if he's able to sell a few cartons, why not let him make a little profit? After all, the government was already seeing their fair share. While our unit had brought in over 3 million for New York State, helped them obtain several arrests and positive identification for the terrorist task force, the grandeur of it all was causing other complications for Stanton. The Yonkers Police Department needs us to relocate, Stanton informed us. They're concerned with all the traffic coming in and out of the area. If they need to take someone down or if something goes awry, they feel other people could be put at risk. They're not wrong. We need to have a clear area. I'm looking for a larger location now, but I need you guys to be prepared for a quick move. However, before anything would be put into play, a giant fish would fall right into our lap. Chapter 25, We Bought a Bomb. A week after Carl's warehouse discovery, he approached us, forlorn. I can't move the cases you gave me, he said, disappointed. I thought it would be easy, but I can't get my people to bite. They're too much money. I can sell a shitload of cartons, though. We don't deal in cartons, Carl. We only deal in cases, I said. Carl went on about how badly he felt, but it was another hot day, so I wasn't interested in hearing anyone else complain. I nodded for Jeff to jump into the conversation to appease Carl. Yet, just as I was about to walk away, I overheard him ask for help purchasing a silencer. Who the fuck do you think you're dealing with? Jeff smirked. Of course we can get you one. But why the fuck would we sell you one? You can't even sell the cigarettes we gave you. What if I exchange something for it? He inquired nonchalantly. Something you'd be really interested in. Jeff and I tried not to laugh. You got better lounge chairs in your shop? No, but I have a bomb. Jeff and I froze. What were the freaking odds that skinny Carl had a bomb? I thought to myself, wondering if it was all bullshit. Okay, please tell us how the fuck you got a bomb, Jeff asked, hiding his smirk. I built it, Carl said as smoothly as he just told us he had eggs for breakfast. Jeff and I tried to gauge if Carl was being serious or if he was a little touched. Carl saw the hesitation on her face. I've been building bombs since I was 11, Carl explained. That's what my shop is really for. I'm a guy like you, conducting business in secret down here. My stomach had begun to seize. I was certain the surveillance team was calling this in as we spoke. You're telling us your furniture business is a setup? I asked. I do sell some pieces, but mostly I'm making money for my expertise. Wait, you're an expert bomb maker? Jeff inquired. I consider myself one, yes, Carl exclaimed, straightening himself proudly. I started toying with devices in my parents' basement when I was little. My father had a collection. I had a pipe bomb mastered by the time I was 15 and was selling them by 16. Best money ever made. Bought myself my first ride with that check. Nick and Bobo had to be salivating over this story. Building bombs pays more than the furniture ever will. I was struck with the realization that Carl hadn't had any customer traffic the whole time we'd been here. I just suppose he didn't make things people liked. I've been a leader for the white supremacist organization for over 10 years, he continued. I've helped them with some beautiful shit. My work is well known, so they'd be happy to vouch for me if you need. I think we're good, Jeff said, his voice a bit shaky. I've been bringing my son to groups with me. I'm trying to get him to lead a new group we're establishing here. It's hard going in these parts. I bet. Never been caught by the police either, Carl boasted ironically. I'm very thorough. I can make you a bomb designed to look like an accident when it goes off, or something larger if your boss needs. I'm very diverse in my makings, and not a fingerprint or part can be traced. I make sure to use pieces from leftover machines. I'm at the junkyard a lot. That must be interesting work, Jeff responded, since I'd become temporarily speechless. You guys want to come over and take a look? Carl looked like a little kid, eager for a play date. Despite how badly I wanted to run away from the monotonous cigarette operation and straight to the bomb site, I stayed put. I learned my lesson about leaving the scene during the last crack house visit. We can't leave the warehouse unattended. We've got a few more sales coming through, Jeff replied. How could I be so stupid, Carl said, slapping himself on the forehead. Of course you can't come. You're busy. How about you show us tomorrow? I asked. I'm pretty interested to see what you've got. Carl's original excitement reemerged. And you'll get me a silencer, right? If what you have is legit, we'll get you more than that. Carl practically skipped back to his warehouse, leaving Jeff and I there to absorb the reality of what had just happened. Just as I'd imagined, Nick and Bobo had been on the phone with the higher-ups the moment the word bomb slipped from Carl's lips. We've got a meeting at 7 p.m. tonight down at the lodge. All personnel needs to be present, Nick stated as we walked inside. By 7 p.m. that evening, our team was sitting inside a cold, air-conditioned lodge beside members of the bomb squad, the Yonkers Police Department, their SWAT team, ATF, the state police, and Stanton. There was more gold and ribbons on the shoulders in that room than I'd seen in my entire life. Yet despite the apparel and stiff nature of the men around the table, the meeting was somewhat relaxed. The ATF had run a background check on Carl with little to see. He was a high school graduate, wife was a teacher, Son was a delinquent, and other than a DWI, he had no prior arrest. The bomb squad laid out the details. They wanted us to purchase a bomb in a safe location, which the SWAT team identified as a nearby park. However, the one thing the bomb squad and all agencies enforced was their need to be present. If I or anyone from my team were to collect the bomb under non-surveillance conditions, we would be stripped of our badges and arrested for criminal negligence and interference. None of us had an issue with the agency's stipulations, mainly because we don't want to fuck with the bomb. The next day, we carried on with business as usual while we waited for Carl to arrive. I was so distracted and anxious that I happened to clip myself in the eye while pulling a case of cigarettes off the truck. My eye immediately began to swell and turn black. When Carl arrived, he took one look at me and asked if a nigger had gotten to me. Yeah, fucking blacks. I hate them all, I said, testing his reaction. For the next 30 minutes, Carl spoke passionately about white supremacy, the leadership qualities they instill, and why I should join. Small balls of spit formed in the corner of his mouth as he worked himself up. You should really come meet them, he exclaimed. They would love you. He seemed a bit wired as he went on. His anger and passion over his group made him overly excited. After 5 minutes, I cut him off, pretending to be annoyed and dismissive. How about you show me the so-called bomb you've got before we talk groups, I said. I've got enough bullshit to do at the moment. Carl's eyes lit up. I want to bring it to you tomorrow. You'll really like it. You can't bring shit here, Carl, I said. You know that, right? If you're going to show us something, it must be done off premises. We're already worried about cops and people watching us. Who knows what shit you could cause if you really have a bomb? You guys don't believe me? He questioned. Carl, all I believe right now is that we're fucking busy and you're over here shooting shit about a bomb and all kinds of crazy stories. If you really have something, we're interested in seeing it, but not on our fucking lot. Got it? Carl apologized. Stop with the fucking apologies, too. There's a park up the street. Meet us there tomorrow around 10 a.m. We obtained final clearance from the bomb squad, who would be on site at 4 a.m., alongside the NYPD, FDNY, ATF, since he requested a silencer, and the FBI. The SWAT team who would be with us inquired about our time of arrival. Around 9:30, I responded. The SWAT team almost choked on their own saliva. You can't get there 30 minutes before, they hyperventilated. We need you there 2 hours before. I'm not sitting in the woods for hours to wait for a guy who's right around the corner from me, I replied. It took an hour for all the final details to be set in place and for us to narrow our time down to 9 a.m. Jeff and I were to be in position on the hillside, a quarter mile from where the team was set up. Within minutes of the bomb's reveal, the SWAT team and bomb squad would storm from the woods directly behind us and overhead via helicopter to apprehend Carl. The plan sounded smooth. However, the next morning, with everyone in position, Carl never showed. A million scenarios floated around. Did he see someone? Did he figure us out? Was he bluffing the whole time? Raid discussions were rampant. The SWAT team wanted to seize the warehouse, but the bomb squad and government agents wanted something bigger. If we could obtain a bomb with intent to sell, we had a stronger case. If we didn't, this asshole could plead a lesser charge for tinkering with explosives in the privacy of his business. In the end, it was agreed that we would wait for a possible sale and headed back to the warehouse to see if Carl would show. Sure as shit, Carl walked straight up to our warehouse 2 hours after we returned. Where the fuck were you? Jeff shouted as Carl walked towards the truck we were loading. We were all irritated at this point. I'm so sorry, guys, I overslept. You overslept? I yelled, stepping off the loading dock towards him. I couldn't believe my fucking ears. Today, of all days, this asshole slept in. Carl, you made a date to show us your shit, and you chose to sleep in. I'm calling bull. I don't believe you have any bombs or any of the shit you say you do. I want you to stay over there in your little furniture-making warehouse and stop harassing my guys with your fucking stories from now on. You got that? I can't have someone in there wasting their time. Carl stood there, his mouth open, waiting to say something. What the fuck are you standing here for? I said, go. This is a real business over here, Carl. Real business need real money. You just spent our morning pay, so go find someone else to feed your tails to. Carl walked away without a word. You think you were too tough, Jeff asked, when he was out of sight. No. If he really has something, he'll show it to us now. Let's just wait and see what he does. 30 minutes later, our surveillance crew went on high alert as Carl returned to the scene. Can you see anything? I radioed Nick. He has something in his hand. I can't tell what it is. Okay, everyone, be ready, I said. Jeff, try and talk him down. You think he really has a bomb? Jeff asked, his eyes wide with fear. We're about to find out, I smiled. Play it cool. Nick, make sure the crews contacted the bomb squad to notify them. Jeff walked out to greet Carl, placing his hand on his shoulder and engaging him in small talk. I could tell by Jeff's face that he was concerned. Carl's lips were tightly pressed together, his cheeks flushed, and he was walking at a rapid pace with a large can of Campbell's tomato soup in his hand. I stood up, ready for whatever was about to go down as he stormed in the warehouse. What the fuck is that? You bring us lunch? I asked, pointing to the can. It's your bomb, Carl sneered, looking directly into my eyes. An uncomfortable feeling immediately rose up my spine. This can of soup is a bomb? What the fuck kind of damage will this shit do? I said, the feeling rising to the back of my neck. Carl pointed to our 26-foot rental truck. It will blow the back end clear off that truck, he grinned before raising his arm and slamming the bomb on the table beside me. My heart leapt into my throat, and the warning in my spine shot throughout my body. Carl was trying to reclaim power with his slam, but his attempt that was designed to scare me only pissed me off. You just slammed that shit on my desk, I spat, springing up from my seat. You trying to fucking play me? Because right now I see a shit-ass bomb maker whose bomb did nothing. Jeff's face tightened while Carl's grin widened. Why don't you step out of the warehouse and I'll show you what my lunch can do? Jeff, your buddy here is trying to get us all busted. He wants to fuck around with his little toys here and send us all to jail. This is the type of person you bring to our warehouse? Jeff was white as a ghost. Billy, I didn't know he was going to pull this shit. Jeff played along, his voice strained. Please don't tell the boss. Carl stood there watching our exchange go down. I don't have to tell the boss. This asshole just cost you the operation. What? Jeff interceded. I didn't know he was unstable. I had no clue he was going to be dumb enough to bring a bomb into the warehouse. It's your job to know, I exclaimed, pointing to the door. Leave on your own terms or feel free to take a ride with me. Carl butted in. No, Billy, this is my fault, he said. You're still here? I said, glancing at him. Carl, as far as I'm concerned, you're no longer a part of this business or this crew. You promised something you couldn't deliver. You backed out on the deal, went against our wishes, and brought a can of soup into our warehouse, claiming it's a bomb. It is a fucking bomb, Carl shrieked. Then what the fuck is it still doing in my warehouse? I roared, all my anger spilling out like a lion. Carl stepped back. I'd scared him. Hell, I think I scared myself. After a minute of silence, Carl broke. I'd be happy to give you this as a peace offering, he stuttered. I don't want any problems, and I don't want Jeff to lose his job because of me. This is all my fault. I stood there, still breathing heavily, and looked into Carl's eyes. A little more life had come into them since he'd arrived. We don't take handouts. If it's the real deal, we'll buy it from you. You think you could wake up on time and meet us at the park tomorrow morning, like planned? The train doesn't go in that direction, and I don't want to carry this over there in case I get robbed. I'd really like you to come to the warehouse. I have everything for you right now. Carl, I said, taking a calming breath, we are not going to leave our site to visit your warehouse, nor are we going to dislodge a bomb here. I, for one, don't plan on going to jail anytime soon, and I think you feel the same, correct? Correct, he immediately replied. Okay, so then you meet us here at 8 a.m. tomorrow, and we'll escort you to the park. If your shit is real, like you say, and it blows up that dirty park, we'll offer you a deal to purchase a dozen right then and there. How does that sound? Carl's eyes brightened. A dozen, he questioned. For now, we can discuss larger sales if the product is good. Carl was happier than a pig in shit. He agreed to the morning meetup and promised to set his and his wife's alarm so he didn't sleep in. I'll call my son now to prep the orders. You're going to be so impressed. Carl was so excited he began to walk away with his bomb still on the table. Carl, I called out, how many times do I have to explain about your shit in our warehouse? Carl placed the can under his arm and walked back to his warehouse with a goofy grin on his face. He talked himself the whole way back. Jeff was pissed that I agreed to transport Carl and the bomb. The surveillance crew was annoyed, since they had to include an additional on-site and van interior setup, and the bomb squad was quick to ask if we were certain our guy would show up. Just as I was rallying everyone, pumping them up about closing another case, gunfire broke out around us. Hit the floor, our surveillance team yelled. Our crew scrambled to the floor, crawling to the side of the warehouse, guns drawn and ready. Millions of thoughts flew through my mind as the bullets pinged off the sides of the warehouse. Had I pushed Carl too far and he returned on an angry rampage? Was this part of his white supremacy group? Were we being robbed by one of our Arabic groups? What's going on out there? I called out to our surveillance team. Stay where you're at, they radioed. We've got gang activity happening just outside your door. Stay down. Police are on their way. We learned about the heavy gang problem that surrounded the neighborhood within days of moving in, but we never experienced any problems as we were said to be in neutral territory. Sweat rolled down my face and dripped onto the floor as I waited, my pistol aimed at the door. My heartbeat consumed my ears, making me wonder if it had blocked out all sound. I no longer heard the pops and pings against the wall. After a few minutes, distant sirens filled the clouded silence. It wasn't my ears. The gunfire had stopped. I sat there unable to move from the adrenaline that was surging through my veins. Language, unsuitable for children, sprang from Albabo's mouth. He was pissed, and with good reason, for in this moment, we were all growing tired of the tense situations that seemed to be engulfing us. Back at the warehouse the next morning, everyone was quiet. Unlike the usual back and forth bullshit we throw at one another after an exciting night, this silence was consuming. Everyone sat around, sipping coffee from the corner deli until it was time to go over the details of the exchange. The silence became so uncomfortable that a large sense of relief filled my body when Carl walked onto the scene. Carl hopped into our van excitedly. He happily fed our radio devices the precise details of the bomb he'd created for us. My son and I finished 2 last night. You're going to love them. Your son sounds like a hard worker, I said, trying to ignore the bomb that was resting on the floor behind my seat. Jeff pulled onto the intersection, which was already jammed with traffic. Look at this shit, Carl explained. This is why I would never drive in this godforsaken city. Carl went on, complaining about the traffic, while Jeff inched his way through the cars and I tried to hide the rising panic that was filling my chest. We'd weaved through 3 cars in 20 minutes before Nick rung in. I leaned towards the window so Carl wouldn't overhear the conversation, thinking it was going to be an accusation over our timing. You can't go to the park with the bomb. Turn around. Do you copy? He screamed. Says who? I asked in case Carl heard him screaming. You can't transport the fucking bomb through the middle of Yonkers, you idiot. Did you hear me? Turn the fuck around. During all the hype of the bomb purchase, some idiot missed the fact that President Obama was in town. Not only was transporting a bomb and breaching every contract we'd ever made with police, but if something happened with Secret Service was there, all hell would have broken loose. Go back to the warehouse now. Obama is in town. Do you copy? Nick shouted. President Obama is here? President Obama was literally 3 blocks away from us, hence the early traffic jam. Tell him you can test the bomb at our site. Things are set in play. Just turn the fuck around. I calmly turned to Jeff, who was looking at the closed road straight ahead. God damn it. Turn around, Jeff. Fucking Obama's here, and Secret Service has closed the fucking roads, I said, tossing my phone on the dashboard. Let's just test this fucker at our site. We can't put Carl's life in jeopardy. We can do some real fucking time if we're caught with this shit. Are you fucking kidding me? Jeff responded, his eyes wide with irritation. Worry spread across Carl's face as well. Obama's here? He questioned. Yes, you 2 crazy assholes, I yelled. So turn this goddamn car around before I turn this wheel myself. I ain't going back to jail for you 2 idiots. The closed roads led to a major traffic cluster, so we sat in the car for another 25 minutes, making small talk to keep each other calm. Once we made our way through our gate, bright lights streamed through our rear window. What the fuck? I yelled, turning to see the cars quickly approaching us. You better pray they're not for us, Jeff. Jeff quickly played the part, pulling the van over and telling us to remain calm. They don't know shit. It's probably a simple blinker I missed or some shit. Everybody stays calm. Don't blow this. I wondered if he meant that sentence on purpose. Within seconds, our car was surrounded by multiple law enforcement agents, their guns drawn and ready. The surprise caught Carl off guard. He kicked the bomb under my seat and raised his hands. The police lunged in and dragged him out before he had a chance to think. Jeff and I were pulled out and arrested for Carl to see as well. The agency couldn't afford to jeopardize their cash cow operation with our possible exposure. After all, people talk in jail. Carl looked at me from the back of the police car, scared. I shook my head and put on a fearful face from the car I was detained in. As Carl's officer drove off, I swear he mouthed the words, "I'm sorry." Once out of sight, the bomb squad came rushing in, securing the bomb, while the SWAT team tore into Carl's warehouse, retrieving 3 bombs, 2 rifles, and a box of explosives. Other position units stormed into Carl's home, retrieving 8 homemade bombs, 14 rifles, thousands of rounds of ammunition, and $500 worth of fireworks. They seized his home computer, arrested his elderly father, who was living with them, as well as his son, who was in the basement building a bomb when they arrived. Another team arrived at the local elementary school where Carl's wife worked and arrested her as well. The arrest led to national headlines and, for the betterment of the operation, a relocation. Yet, the greatest satisfaction I received was in a message from my family. So, I just saw in the news that a man making bombs was caught and arrested after he'd been schmoozed by an undercover. I'm guessing that had to be you. We're all proud of you. Some may not grasp the deeper meaning of that message, but for me it was huge. My family knew me. Without even telling them, they knew what I'd done. There was a great satisfaction in that.
Walking away was never an option. Only surviving was. As the danger escalated, so did the cost of every decision. With enemies closing in and trust running thin, it was all about making it out alive. Stick around. The most dangerous chapters are still ahead.